This function is given in what is called the standard form of a quadratic function. So generally that looks like f of x equals a times x minus h squared plus k. And when a function's in this form, we can identify the vertex. The vertex is the point hk. The a tells us whether the function's opening up or down. If a is positive, it opens up. If it's negative, it opens down. That would also indicate any kind of vertical stretch or shrink if it's a different number. And so for our particular function that we're looking at, we see that we have a 1 in place of the h and a 4 in place of the k. So our vertex for this particular function is the point 1, 4. We also see that our a is negative 1. So because a is negative, that means that our parabola opens down. So to get a couple other points to plot in order to generate an accurate graph, let's go ahead and find the intercepts. We can find a y-intercept of any graph by plugging in a 0 for x. So we find a y-intercept by plugging in 0 for x. So if we evaluate that there, 0 minus 1 is negative 1. Negative 1 squared is positive 1, so we have that negative from the outside there, so we get a negative 1 plus 4, and that's 3. So our y-intercept is the point 0, 3. So we can plot that point as well. And we'll also go ahead and find our x-intercepts. And for any type of function, we find x-intercepts by plugging in a 0 for y, or in this case for f of x. So we're essentially setting that equation equal to 0. So here we'll go ahead and subtract 4 from both sides. Then I'll go ahead and divide by this negative 1 that's out in front there, and that way we get a positive 4 equals x minus 1 squared. And then we'll take the square root of both sides to get rid of that square. Anytime we take the square root of both sides, we need to use a plus or minus. And the square root of 4 is 2. And so we have plus or minus 2 equals x minus 1. Let's go ahead and add 1 to both sides. So I have x equals 1 plus or minus 2. So 1 plus 2 would be 3. 1 minus 2 would be negative 1. So I have two x-intercepts, 3, 0, and negative 1, 0. Let's go ahead and plot all these points that we have so far. So my vertex is 1, 4. My y-intercept is 0, 3, and my x-intercepts are 3, 0, and negative 1, 0. So knowing that that point 1, 4 is the vertex, that's where we're going to make that turn of our U-shape, and so we can see, as we were expecting, that our U-shape is going to be opening down. So we can also use the fact that parabolas are symmetric to transfer this point here, that 0, 3, over to the other side of the vertex. So we can generate a more accurate graph that way. So we just go ahead and connect those dots with a rounded U-shaped curve there to get the graph of our function.